Senior Product Manager and Trade Me, Kevin, and GM and Vice President of Monetization and Ads at Poshmark, Adi, hosted by our very own Marcos. A warm round of applause, please. Thank you so much for being here.
Hello, thanks very much to you all that are sticking with us till the end. Very welcome to you guys, thanks for being here. I have this book in my hands, Who Guess What and Why by Avi Rowe. I think that we have a few left. So if you would like to get one for you guys, make your way, and we have some in the reception table. So I think it's pretty accurate for this talk, which is ads in modern marketplaces. So we have this gentleman over here, and pretty excited to be hosting this. So just to begin, I'd like for you to introduce yourselves and tell us a bit more of what you do and what are the key differentiators of your of the marketplaces that you are part of. So Adi, if you want to start, please.
Sure. Good afternoon. Thanks for having me. So I'm Adi. I work for Poshmark, which is a C2C marketplace focused on apparel in US and Canada. I lead the ads and partnership side at Poshmark. As a bit of introduction, I've been there around 3 years, and prior to that, I was at Facebook and TikTok where I built ad products. I was an entrepreneur in the marketplace area prior to that, so I spent over a decade in ads and marketplaces. So this is an area that I deeply care about and passionate about. What makes us unique as a marketplace is very C2C, so it's basically consumers selling to consumers. And it's a very community-oriented marketplace. We don't have any large brands. So in the context of advertising, we started using Topsort around, I think, 2.5 years ago. I think in November, the 3-year anniversary. We built a very sizable, rapidly growing, highly profitable ads business, in partnership with Topsort. So, and I think what's been unique for us is we've been able to build this high-growth business with the complexity and sophistication of Topsort to drive value for our sellers and advertisers without revealing any of the complexity to the seller who are our main advertisers. So I think that's the beauty of it, right? It's like the majority of our advertisers are first-time advertising sellers. So anyway, I'll save more details for later, but that's who I am and that's our growth.
Thank you.
Yes, well, I guess I go next. So, hey, my name is Gastón, and I've been working on Indeed for 5 years already. It's a very special marketplace. I guess we're going to talk about it in a minute. But the deal is that it's actually it's a marketplace that you think about mostly about job search. So you have that able to post a job, say, and then you have the opportunity to give advertisers to go to Indeed and say, okay, so I want to post my jobs here, I want to get the best candidates that you can with me, and then we take all of that into account and then try to optimize who are the best candidates and how we basically try to spend their budgets around different services and partners and so on. So yeah, we can dive into that much more. Actually, before Indeed, I used to work, let's say, with Winsa. In a startup we had in the past, so yeah, I know very well the Topsort
So, and same as Adi, are you using Topsort?
No, it's all in-house.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, hi. My name is Kevin. I'm product manager at Trade Me, which is New Zealand's largest online classifieds and e-commerce marketplace. My role is in the marketplace team, and I focus on our B2C retailers. And we have both B2C and C2C. So we're similar to Nolan, except we've got businesses selling as well. We've been working with Topsort 2 years, 2.5 years, to modernize our promotional advertising products. So we have these really C2C centric promotional advertising tools now B2C retailers are using. So yeah, it's been going really well. I've been at Trade Me 7 years. It's my longest job. It's really interesting working in a small market like New Zealand and applying kind of global concepts there because we are this time nation world.
What a ride, 7 years. Amazing, thanks very much guys. So Kevin, let me start with you. So my first question is, how has integrating new advertising technologies helped to improve targeting and monetization at TradeMe?
For marketplace, massively. So we, as I was talking about, we had this suite of products that for years had been in decline, both in terms of revenue and actual usage by our sellers. But what was crazy was actually for our B2C customers, some of our largest retailers weren't spending at all on advertising with us. And so we wanted to fix that. And so we spent a lot of time digging into the problem, and what it really boiled down to was the products were uneconomical. We needed advertising was a better fit. And so bringing that in has been really, really awesome. Most of the sellers that are using sponsored listings never spent with advertising before. So it's been really, really good, and we're really excited about where it goes. In terms of, I guess, innovation and going forward, I think everyone's talking about AI and Gen AI, and we were discussing this before. And I think that idea you can now have a conversation with a digital product is quite exciting, and for us being a really search and bottom of funnel based platform, as we start to introduce more of that stuff, I think really ad tech that comes behind that will really, really cool, and if we can make it more relevant or better understand those buyers intent, we can make more of that.
Totally. And I guess that's part of what you see as innovation for shaping the future on the marketplace, right? Introducing AI, Gen AI.
100%.
Yeah. And you mentioned one important word, which is personalization. So my next question is for the three of you. It's actually, how has personalization improved the relevancy and the user experience, and how do you deal with that, let's say, sweet spot to balance UX and relevance, right, when showing ads? How if you want to lead off?
Yeah, so I think for us, it's been a journey, because when you introduce ads into a commerce system, there's always a trade-off between relevance and revenue generation. Because in any commerce site, every piece of content is a listing. Every listing is actually an ad, because you click and you buy something and there's a take or there's some profit. When you introduce ads, it's also revenue, but I think, is the ad relevant enough to generate revenue that actually is going to make up for the listing that it took the place of this standardization? So at the end of the day, when you introduce ads in the context of marketplaces, it's actually ads displacing ads. It's revenue displacing revenue. So what we've worked on with Topsort, I think in the early days now that Alexi and the entire team, is we run a bunch of experiments to make sure that the quality of the ads, when we show ads, and the bids that we allow, we're actually driving incremental revenue. Because we want to make sure that A, the ads are relevant, and two, is the revenue from ads is incremental and not enterprise marketplace revenue. And that's a basic premise of ads and marketplaces. You want an ancillary revenue stream, not a displaced revenue stream. Right? So I think from a personalization perspective, I think it was just a long journey of a bunch of different features, a lot of experiments that ensured that we produced ads in the right moments that have a good user experience, but also monetize for the marketplace and grow value to the seller, because we see ads as a three-sided marketplace. It has to be shopper or user value, consumer value. There has to be value for the advertiser, put it in OS, and three is the revenue for the marketplace. So I think this tripod of value is what we always look at, and it was just a bunch of experimentation, and every marketplace is distinct and unique in the intent level, in terms of discovery versus being shopping intent level, in terms of being just the take rate. You know, if you have a low take rate like Etsy, for example, you can probably be a bit more aggressive with that. We have a really high take rate, around 20%. So we have to be very, very good about when we produce ads and when we don't show ads. So yeah, so I think it's super important. We actually, as we speak, doing a bunch of experiments. Again, it's been 2.5 years of experimentation. The thing about personalization is there's no endpoint. It's a machine learning problem. It's an optimization problem. So it's a constant pursuit of getting better and better and better. And I think the Topsort team has been phenomenal, because they introduce the newest technologies from ML and AI and educate us on how they might be used to solve the problem of the pride that I just mentioned, right? So that's what I think.
Yeah, actually I want to add, so everything that Daniel said, it applies to media at the same time. Like you have to be very good at actually, let's say, doing the right matches at the end of the day in the marketplace to actually be able to get the customers coming back to you. Otherwise, they're going to say, yeah, this is just like very bad experience, so I'm not going to spend it here. And the additional, let's say, complexity that we have at least is that in many cases you have a conversion that just someone buying something, it's great, like that, and that's it, that ends there. In our case, actually, you are delivering a candidate that should be high quality, right? So you don't only have the, let's say, the quality mindset on the let's say, the search, let's say, experience, but also on the delivery experience, right? So when you have now the quality in both ends of the marketplace, the amount of scrutiny that you need to have in terms of like quality measurement and these type of things, it's double in a way. So that I would say it's something that is very unique and very specific to our domain, but actually everything that Ali mentioned actually applies the same. The only way to really kind of optimize good the marketplace, it's about getting all those users actually coming back to the marketplace, and this is something that we have to struggle with basically every day. So, yeah.
Everything basically. I think for us with bringing ads in, we've only brought them in for the B2C side of our marketplace. We haven't actually done it for our C2C customers. And there's many reasons why, but for us, similar to what you guys were saying, is we've got to be really careful with how we manage that. And for us, we know from our research that also our C2C sellers are also buyers in the marketplace. So it's a tricky balance of making sure that we're getting the ROAS and we're getting the outcomes for our B2C retailers by putting these sponsored listings and placements. But we had to do a lot of experimentation and A/B testing to just be sure that we weren't cannibalizing the other side of the business, and that our C2C customers were still being successful.
Amazing, thanks very much. Let me go back to Gastón, because you were mentioning about delivering candidates. So I'm curious about how do you measure conversion? How do you measure attribution? I guess that's a challenge for you.
Yeah, it is absolutely. So, well, I think we have let's say different ways of how we measure this. Like one of them, of course, is traditional click-based, let's say, experience, which is more simple. You know, you have a click and then you just like track that click and then you do it. You can charge that. But we also have the conversion aspect of the business as well. You can come in and say, I only want to pay for the candidates I get. Now, the candidates, you don't really know exactly when they're becoming a candidate, right? So you have let's say, many of you have been in LinkedIn and you have applied for a job, and then you click there, but it doesn't take you inside LinkedIn, it actually takes you outside of LinkedIn. And that is basically the applicant tracking system that they have. Deep integrations like that are not trivial, right? Like you cannot go and integrate to every ATS and try to see when actually apply finished, right? So you can only guess so much of how far you have the conversion happen. And that's kind of like a big challenge for us because we need to charge for it, right? So we have this concept of apply start, like when something started but didn't finish. And we also have the concept of apply complete, something that we know that finished. So we have, of course, partners where we have integrations, we know exactly what happened. And these are different, let's say, business models that we have. We charge differently for each of them. And then we have, let's say, another side of the attribution in a way that goes more into like bigger companies that are more interested in things like uptime. So let's say impressions in a way. You have, let's say, big companies, let's say, thinking about being present in every search. It's something that they really wanted to optimize for example, and that's something that they really like to optimize for at the same time. It's a little bit more the CPM type of game, but it's a different business model we needed to. So we have these different, let's say, attribution programs and how we navigate each of them is actually driven by the size of the company that they're trying to sponsor jobs. And indeed, bigger companies tend to be more closer to, let's say, apply starts, that kind of thing, because they have their own ATS and stuff like that that we can integrate with them. But then you have smaller businesses like, let's say, the dentist at the corner or something that they're hiring for someone quickly, that they just care about the click basically.
Yeah. quite interesting how you are addressing this challenge, very distinctive. And talking about distinction, I know that we all are aware about Amazon's dominance. So I'd like to hear from you three. How do you feel? How do you see your marketplaces differentiating from their offering? Kevin, if you want to.
It's easier for us because the closest Amazon fulfillment centre to New Zealand is in Australia. So they haven't moved in yet. You can use it, but we're not growing.
Don't call them.
No, but we have had Temu move in quite aggressively in the last couple of years, and then and further before that, Facebook Marketplace. And Temu was interesting because they came in and they drove the prices down, and then they drove the price of advertising up. And so we suddenly had a bunch of sellers that it was now way more expensive to advertise through, say, Google or Facebook, and they had to be way more price competitive. And so we've spent a lot of time looking at our points of differentiation and digging into our data because we're quite broad category. And what we find is a lot of those areas where we are different are where we've got local sellers and selling things like automotive parts or cabins or building supplies or furniture, things like that, and that was hard to disrupt. So we focused a lot of our efforts on protecting the buying audiences that we get there, and then we also leverage the C2C side of our marketplace to bring that kind of unique used inventory in as well. And it's an interesting one because when you look at like Temu and what they do was, they sell it the cheapest and it comes straight from China and it can ship it to New Zealand really quickly. And it's really hard as a business in New Zealand to compete against that. And so we've sort of had to shift our efforts away from those categories, but also with the ads products that we do sell, we help those sellers that are struggling to help, I guess, get more of the products from New Zealand. Otherwise, that still are coming to trade.
How about Poshmark?
Yeah, so I think for Poshmark, we compete with Amazon Apparel and also with Temu and Shein. I think we have a bit of a break right now with the tariffs, so I think we don't mind the tariffs, at least in the Poshmark business. But I think for us, from a unique and competitive standpoint, we have the largest inventory of used fashion in the US and Canada. A lot of people buy fast fashion, but it's not the quality. Even the top brands, I think most of the men might not know these, but brands like Free People or Cezanne, most women might know, which I have been here up from the Poshmark, you get great deals on top brands at Poshmark. So that is our unique selling point, which you can't find on Temu, Shein or on Amazon at that price or quality. I think in terms of advertising, I think there's a bunch of things we can work on Amazon, right? I think in terms of placement, I think Karen and my team was here pointed out different formats that we can use to actually use endemic first-party advertising to create awareness, not just because of acquisition. We think about retail media, and we think about ads and commerce. We always think about direct response, performance marketing, ROAS orientation. But what if we help at least a bigger seller through advertising meet shoppers higher in the funnel? Like, can we have new ad format? So I think from that perspective, I think Amazon has been a good role model for us to learn about ads. I think even the degree of relevance of their sponsored products is so high that you can't really tell whether you're shopping from sponsored or unsponsored, right? So I think we always look at eBay and Amazon for inspiration from that perspective.
Amazing, thank you. And so curious about indeed, Gastón, what's coming next? What future innovations do you believe that will impact the marketplace advertising in your case?
Yeah, well, at least in our case, in order to what Kevin mentioned earlier about how you actually change the interface with the users. And so right now, for example, it's all about the matching product, right? Like how you really do that well. And the better you get signals, the better you get the matching. So in the old days, you just ask for the resume and you just ask for the job description, and it was kind of okay to some extent. But really, if you start thinking about it, there's much more than just the resume, and much more about the job description than on how you make a matching work in a job website. So going back to that core principles of how you actually get the data that we're going to use to train all these machine learning models to do better matching, it's really something that it's moving fast with the introduction of all these editor technologies and so on. It's moving fast in the direction that you can actually have much better interfaces with, like, let's say, communicate, like basically like chat type of interfaces to capture very nuanced things from candidates, and also from job posts, you can say, from employers. But also you can collect all this data, and then you can make a much better, let's say, nuanced matching on how they really match with each other, right? So before you rely on all these, let's say, embedding things that you just like run some function that will say, yeah, these are kind of like similar, so you're good, this is a good match. But then you start looking at the details, it's like, yeah, but this person really doesn't have like everything that is expected because of this reason. And all of this, more advanced, nuanced, let's say, matching problems are much easier in the world that you have these LLMs that actually are supporting all this stuff. So I think there's a lot of coming into that direction, at least in our case, and we're basically working on that pretty heavily right now.
Amazing. And you mentioned some signals, some kind of signals. So you're kind of detecting what the user basically is doing through the platform, right? So how do you see that of course, the evolving privacy regulations will affect that kind of measurement?
Yeah, absolutely. And that's something that, at least at BP, we have very heavily regulated. Because you have all these, let's say, marketplace fairness, that we cannot ask if someone is pregnant, stuff like that, right? So there's a lot of regulation, not only on the data we can ask, but also the data we can use in the models, let's say. So that's heavily regulated. We have a lot of guidelines and guardrails on how to work on that. We have the same type of guardrails, let's say, that we've been using for many years now. They're more present than ever, because now everything that we're basically doing, let's say, this push that we're doing to get more signals has to go through a lot of legal scrutiny, basically. So yeah, privacy, regulation, all of that is absolutely something we need to work on every day. The one thing that also may not be kind of like very well known, but also you have a lot of sponsoring regulation, especially in markets that outside the US. So we operate in Japan, for example. And there you have a revenue generating business that, let's say, has some sponsorship, let's say, and has some, let's say, specific entity in Japan. We need to go through SOX compliance and stuff like that, which is like another layer of complexity on how we can actually charge people, and how can we actually, let's say, deal with issues. For example, if you run an advertisement, let's say, campaign, and we charge